In these notes today, we're going to be talking about parallel lines. So in this whole chapter itself, we're going to be learning a whole lot about parallel lines. But to get started, let's go ahead and just do a quick warm up. So if you want to go ahead and pause this video, and then when you push play, I'll have all the answers filled in. But go ahead and pause right now to try these by yourself. Alright, so for number 1, points that lie on the same plane are coplanar, right? So they're on the same plane, coplanar. The next one says two angles whose sum is 180 degrees. So remember, sum is adding, is supplementary. If their sum is 90, then they are complementary. So if they add up to 90 degrees, they will be complementary. Then we have here two lines that intersect. So thinking like a system of equations, like two lines intersect at a point. Two planes intersect at a line, and then we have a pair of adjacent angles who form a line, right? So adjacent form a line. They're next to each other, but they're on that line. They're a linear pair. Next, 6 is a lovely betweenness problem. So remember that from chapter 1. So here it says A is between B and C. So as we see here, we have B and C, and A is in between. We know that BA is 4x minus 2. So 4x minus 2. And we have here AC is x plus 2. Then we have the entire segment is equal to 35. So from here, as you can tell, I went ahead and added them up and set them equal to 35, the entire segment. I went and solved for x, and then the question was actually asking to find AC right in the beginning, so then my final answer would be 9. All right, now we're going to get into what chapter 4 is all about, parallel lines. So two lines are parallel if they are on the same plane. So here, if they're on the same plane, and do not intersect, right? So we have two lines here that are going to be parallel that will never intersect. The notation for parallel is going to be an arrow. Sometimes you'll see it as 1, or sometimes you'll see it as 2, but that's going to be the notation to let you know on an actual figure. Here we have then the symbol for a parallel, which the symbol would be if we had something like this. So the two segments are parallel to each other. Next, we have skewed lines. So skewed lines are not, so a big no, so are not on the same plane. And they do not intersect. Okay, so notice if they're not on the same plane here, right? So if they're not on the same plane, are they going to be parallel? Absolutely not, right? Because parallel lines, they need to be on the same plane. Okay, so the next we have here are parallel planes. So two planes here. So we have plane R and plane S down below. So two planes are parallel if they do not intersect. Okay, so as you see here, these two planes do not intersect. So if I were to name these, we have plane R is parallel to plane S is how we would write that. Okay, alrighty, so let's go ahead and let's do a couple examples here. Okay, so we have this lovely cube. The first question is segment EG and ML. EG and ML. We need to describe whether they are parallel, skew, or just intersecting. Okay, so remember, parallel, they're going to be on the same plane. Skew, they're not on the same plane. Intersecting is they're just going to touch. Okay, so here we have these two, definitely parallel, right? They're on the same plane. They're going to be parallel. All right, the next one we have here is LK, LK, and EG. Notice they are not on the same plane. Since they're not on the same plane, they're going to be skew, right? And they're never going to intersect. Next, we have another example, LK and GH. So LK and GH. Oh, looks like those are on the same plane, so they're going to be parallel. And at any point, if you wanted to pause the video and come back to see what the rest are going to be, go ahead and do that. The next we have here is EG and GH. Ooh, okay, so they're on the same plane, 100%. However, they're actually going to intersect at point G, right? So here, these are going to be intersecting. All right. I'm going to do one more here. So JN, JN, and ML. Okay, so those two are on separate planes, as we can see here, and they're not going to intersect, so they are skew. Okay, so I'm just going to leave those ones. If you'd like to try them, go ahead. So the next ones, we are going to just fill in what we know about those vocabulary words that we just learned. So if you'd like to go ahead and pause this video and answer these questions, be my guest. And it's good practice to understand that vocab. So it says here, answer each of the following with sometimes, always, never. I'm just going to put an S-A or an N. So S-A or an N. So skew lines sometimes intersect, always intersect, or never intersect. Definitely and never intersect. Skew lines are parallel. Absolutely not, right? If they're skewed, they cannot be in the same plane, so they can't be parallel. Next we have two parallel lines blank lie on the same plane. Do parallel lines lie on the same plane? Always. So this is saying two lines in parallel planes, right? So two lines in parallel planes are blank skew. Now, it just says two lines in parallel planes. So we have parallel planes and two lines. It does not give any information of the two lines if they're on separate on each of one of the planes or if they're on the same plane. So here, I would actually say sometimes skew because if they're on separate parallel planes, then they're not on the same plane and they won't intersect. But now if there are two lines are on one of the planes and there's no lines on the other plane, then it would not be skew. So here, I'm going to say sometimes. All right. Then next we have two lines that have no common points in common are blank parallel. Two lines that have no common points in common are parallel. That was my Ring doorbell. Okay. Hey. Two lines I have no, sorry, my dog just distracted me. Okay, two lines that have no common points in common are, well, if they don't have any common points in common, right, there are always, well, let's actually say sometimes, right? They're sometimes parallel because technically they could be, they could technically be on separate planes or they might be on the same plane. It doesn't really specify. Last, finally, it says if two lines are parallel, then they blank on the same plane, right? So if two lines are parallel, they have to lie on the same plane. So this isn't always. All right, there we have it.